question. Now we want to go straight to Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, speaking at the UN.
Peace. And when he made that decision, he went to Jerusalem and delivered a speech before the Israeli Knesset. That he went to the Knesset was courageous in itself. But what took real courage was what he said there. Sadat did not go to Jerusalem on bended knee. He spoke in no uncertain terms about the hard concessions he expected from the Israelis. And then he said the words that both he and the world knew marked a turning point. He said to the Israeli legislators, quote, "You want to live with us in this part of the world. In all sincerity, I tell you, we welcome you among us with full security and safety. We used to reject you," he said. "Yet today I tell you and declare it to the whole world that we accept to live with you in permanent peace based on justice." These were the words that led to peace between Egypt and Israel. It was not an easy process. It took another 16 months of tough negotiations to reach a peace treaty, and both sides made difficult compromises. But Sadat's words helped make Israel understand that it had a partner with whom it could make those painful compromises. Some have said that these were the words that got Anwar Sadat killed. But no one can question the generations of Egyptians and Israeli citizens that have enjoyed a peace that has stood the test of time. Compare those words to what Palestinian President Abbas said to the PLO Central Council 11 days ago. In his speech, President Abbas declared the landmark Oslo Peace Accords dead. He rejected any American role in peace talks. He insulted the American president. He called for suspending recognition of Israel. He invoked an ugly and fictional past, reaching back to the 17th century to paint Israel as a colonialist project engineered by European powers. Once more, let's contrast Sadat's words with Abbas's. President Sadat acknowledged that some Arab leaders did not agree with him, but he told them it was his responsibility to, quote, "exhaust all and every means in a bid to save my Egyptian Arab people and the entire Arab nation the horrors of new, shocking, and destructive wars." President Abbas also acknowledged criticism from other Arab leaders, and he too had a message for them. His response was, "Get lost." Curiously, President Abbas's speech has gotten little attention in the media. I encourage anyone who cares about the cause of a durable and just peace in the Middle East to read President Abbas's speech for yourself. A speech that indulges in outrageous and discredited conspiracy theories is not the speech of a person with the courage and the will to seek peace. Despite all of this, the United States remains fully prepared and eager to pursue peace. We have done nothing to prejudge the final borders of Jerusalem. We have done nothing to alter the status of the holy sites. We remain committed to the possibility and potential of two states, if agreed to by the parties. Just as it did with Egypt, peace requires compromise. It requires solutions that take into account the core interests of all sides. And that is what the United States is focused on for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hate-filled speeches and end runs around negotiations take us nowhere. Ultimately, peace will not be achieved without leaders with courage. King Hussein of Jordan was another such leader. In 1994, he ended 46 years of war and entered into a peace agreement with Israel that holds to this day. When King Hussein signed the peace treaty, he said this, quote, "These are moments in which we live, the past and the future. When we come to live next to each other, as never before, we will be doing so, Israelis and Jordanians together, without the need for any to observe our actions or supervise our endeavors. This is peace with dignity. This is peace with commitment." End quote. I ask here today, where is the Palestinian president? Where is the Palestinian King Hussein? Where is the Palestinian Anwar Sadat? If President Abbas demonstrates he can be that type of leader, we would welcome it. His recent actions demonstrate the total opposite. The United States remains deeply committed to helping the Israelis and the Palestinians reach a historic peace agreement that brings a better future to both peoples, just as we did successfully with the Egyptians and the Jordanians. But we will not chase after a Palestinian leadership that lacks what is needed to achieve peace. To get historic results, we need courageous leaders. History has provided such leaders in the past. For the sake of the Palestinian and Israeli people, we pray it does so again. Thank you.
All right, some very interesting remarks there from UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. I want to bring in CNN Global Affairs correspondent Elise Labott and Aaron David Miller. He's our CNN Global Affairs analyst and VP and distinguished scholar at the Woodrow Wilson International Center. So, Elise, she's responding to a speech from President Abbas where he essentially rejected, and of course this comes on the heels of President Trump's decision about the U.S. Embassy moving it to Jerusalem, something that will take some time, but certainly something that was symbolically very upsetting to the Palestinians. This was a speech that Abbas gave where he denies a Jewish connection to Israel, where he rejected U.S.-led peace talks. What did you make of what she said just moments ago?
Well, I mean, Brianna, look, there's no, doubt that the U.S. is very disappointed in the leader, Palestinian leader, Mahmoud Abbas, and his leadership and his, inability to talk to the U.S. You had Vice President Pence in the region just this week. The Palestinian leader refused to deal with him on the heels of that announcement on Jerusalem. But at the same time, you have to take Ambassador Haley's comments in the context of what happened not only with President Trump's decision, but this week also. Just today, President Trump sitting with Benjamin Netanyahu talking about that special relationship and essentially writing off the Palestinians if they don't come to the table. You have Vice President Pence in Israel this week, really solidifying that there is no daylight between the U.S. and Israel. And my good friend Aaron just wrote a very poignant piece this week about the fact that the U.S. is now unambiguously taking a side in the Middle East peace process, and that's on the side of Israel. There's been a lot of disaffection with Mahmoud Abbas, not just from the U.S., but from Arab allies, particularly in the Gulf, that are trying to, not get close to Israel, but cooperate more on security. Those relationships are developing, and everybody is pretty frustrated with Mahmoud Abbas's inability to get with the program, as you say. So they know that Abbas is weakened. They know that this is, a time to kind of strike. And I think people are looking for Mahmoud Abbas to resign, and they want to find Palestinian leadership that will, be more acquiesce a little bit more to what the U.S. wants.
Aaron, let's listen to what President Trump said about the U.S. Embassy in Israel.
The hardest subject they had to talk about was Jerusalem. We took Jerusalem off the table, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. They never got past Jerusalem. We took it off the table. We don't have to talk about it anymore. You won 1 point, and you'll give up some points later on the negotiation, if it ever takes place. I don't know that it ever will take place. But they have to respect the process also.
And I should also say, Aaron, we also just got a very defiant response from Abbas's office, where he says that if Jerusalem is off the table, then America is off the table as well. It seems like, obviously, things were not going well between the U.S. and the Palestinians, but we see them careening downward as we speak just at this moment.
Absolutely. I can't remember in 25 years of being around these Arab-Israeli negotiations, two things that are more stunning. Number one, I think at no point in the U.S.-Israeli relationship has Washington, particularly this administration, aligned itself so purposefully and willfully with the interests of the government of Israel. And second, I do not remember a period, and we brought a lot of pressure during the first Bush administration on a Palestinian delegation to get them to Madrid, and on Arafat in particular, but I cannot remember a time when so public a demonstration or orchestration of, Lisa's right, this is not single down, double down, this is essentially triple down. And what the administration hopes to achieve by this, it seems to me, is unclear, particularly weeks, perhaps months before the president's ultimate deal proposal is put on the table. But Nikki Haley is right about one thing, and that is the reason we don't have two states between Israelis and Palestinians has a lot to do with the absence of leadership. You have two leaders, Benjamin Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas, who are not masters of their political constituencies. They are prisoners of their own ideologies. They are both fundamentally constrained, both on what they can do on process and substance. And frankly, without those kinds of leaders, plural, you know, if Nikki Haley asks, where is the Palestinian King Hussein? And where is the Palestinian Anwar Sadat? Well, I guess, having been around the negotiations, I would ask, where is the Israeli Menachem Begin? Where is the Israeli Shimon Peres? Where is the Israeli Yitzhak Rabin? You are going to need, this is not one hand clapping. And finally, I find it extraordinary, again, that Nikki Haley is delivering a speech that would normally be the purview of the Secretary of State. And it gets to points that Elise has made over the last several weeks in the wake of her interview with Secretary of State Tillerson. It says to me again that a lot of this has to do with Nikki Haley's politics, and it also demonstrates, I think, that Secretary of State is simply not involved, even though he is in the meeting, was in the meeting with President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, that the Secretary of State is playing an unusually marginalized role.
Elise, that is a very interesting point.
It's a very interesting point. And listen, this, you know, President Trump was clear from the very beginning, even on the campaign, that he was going to designate this to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And you also have Jason Greenblatt, who's taken an increasingly larger role in working with Israelis and Palestinians. And in the very beginning, I think both Kushner and Greenblatt gained a lot of kudos in the region for not just, you know, speaking with the Israelis, but going out to the Palestinians. They, you know, Greenblatt went to a refugee camp, met with Palestinian refugees, has been around the region trying to, you know, learn more about the issues. But I think as, you know, Kushner and Greenblatt both have very close ties to Israel. And now you see these Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, you know, they're softening their positions on Israel too. And the cooperation that they have on security, on other matters, isn't very overt, but it's very important. And I think that, you know, the Palestinians are kind of the cog in the wheel of what the U.S. and Israel see as this new paradigm in the region, where Israel and the Gulf states, or, you know, Egypt, Jordan, are cooperating on security matters, on tourism, on trade. And there's this, you know, future Middle East that's going, you know, that they can see, if only it wasn't for that Palestinian leader that isn't getting in line. And so I think, you know, today the U.S. unambiguously, you know, sided with the Israelis. It'll be interesting to see how the Gulf states react. I know that Jordan's King Abdullah will be very upset, but it's going to have an interesting dynamic going forward for sure.
Elise and David, thank you so much to both of you. Appreciate it. Coming up, the Department of Justice